Hello folks, IBC again, International Broadcasting Convention. A very large conference in Amsterdam about the broadcast industry. And that involves today not only broadcast, like television and radio, but also internet. And of course, what you see behind us, whatever hangs in the sky is part of that. Satellites. And that's where we start today, sitting outside with all these vans behind us. Now, most of the equipment shown here is satellite equipment used for uplinking. Broadcast organizations employ that to channel their ENG, their news gathering material, up to the sky and down to wherever they want to process it. But there is, of course, a whole other range of satellite use, and that is the end user. And in Europe, especially in Amsterdam, that is not very common. Only some minorities, like the Turkish people, do have satellite receiver dishes. But generally, people employ cable. There's a 99.5 coverage of cable in Amsterdam. And that goes for most of Holland and large parts of Europe. So the success of satellite is only limited to very niche markets. In the States, where cable is not so common or the distances are too far, satellite is of course a different ballgame. A way to get programs down to the receiver, to the end user. Satellite in the States means many channels, many more than we have now in Europe on the still predominantly analog cable channels. Here in Amsterdam we have 32. And there's been talks about a digital decoder, but that didn't work this year because they say Microsoft wasn't ready. But I think there's some other reasons for it. Because the investment in decoders for a city like Amsterdam, which comprises of 500,000 households, that's a large amount of money. And who's going to pay for that? That's UPC, the United Pan-European Communications Company that is spreading over Europe over the past few years. And as you know, they're busy, but financially they might be in a little crunch. And buying 500,000 decoders might be a little bit too much. So they're holding off for whatever reason. But it does mean that digital television does not yet happen here. That, in fact, that might take another year and a half before it happens. And that also means that, for instance, television sets with a digital decoder built-in are not yet there. Doesn't make sense to make them. What we do see here is companies like Philips and Thomson offering set-top boxes. Digital set-top boxes as a replacement for, say, the FilmNet analog set-top boxes. And as you know, there's a variety of coding and protection and whatever making those boxes work. But the next generation is digital set-top boxes. And of course, companies like Philips are showing here at IBC how that connects to, for instance, other home appliances, the home PC, and that's where the whole convergence starts. Now, convergence is one of the main items here at IBC, and we're going to go around the floor and have a look at it. And then we're here at IBC at the press room. Now, you can see there's many international journalists. And it's kind of funny because it is a show about broadcasting. It's a show about the press. And then there is press covering the press, like us covering IBC. So it's rather complex, looking at yourself. But here, the journalists who cover the industry, so to speak, come together, and they're well catered for. And of course, it's sponsored by Harris. But in a way, you can feel this is an English organization because, like for instance, we have nice salads, but no dressing. Now maybe that's English, we don't know, but the Dutch people complain about it and say, hey, what's that? But so there are peculiarities in handling the press. But for the rest, we're very happy. There's a whole list and a whole a range of press events that happen here. Things like outings for the press, press briefings, you can talk to people. It's well catered for, so to speak. At the press room, Paul O'Donovan, you are more of a market researcher because you're from?
I'm from the UK. I'm from Gartner and DataQuest, which is a market research company. I'm an analyst that looks into specifically digital TV.
Okay. Now we're here at IBC, which is a mega show concerning broadcast. But your field is the future of the end user coming up.
Yeah, it's specifically to do with consumer electronics and specifically digital TV and how we provide the consumer with broadcast TV mixed with internet content or mixed with other content and interactive content. That's specifically my area of research.
What we see here a lot is set-top boxes by Philips, Thomson. Many companies offer set-top boxes. Now, what is a set-top box?
Basically, a set-top box is a way of being able to receive the signals that can be viewed on a TV screen or some other display. And they are the way of actually being able to really grow the type of content that can be provided for consumers. Really interactive content.
So not only television, but like if you want to get some statistic on some sports, you can dial into some internet connection.
Yeah, exactly. The internet can be used, or a walled garden where the data is transferred from the broadcaster directly to the consumer without even using the internet. Yeah.
Okay. So many new things. Now, someone told me, he said, yes, but these set-top boxes are only a passing fad. In about 5 years' time, everybody might have a digital TV with all the functionality built into the TV.
Oh, quite the opposite, in fact. The set-top boxes are the way of the future. With the displays changing to flat panel displays, plasma displays, LCD displays, the set-top box actually has a guaranteed future, as consumer electronics will move away from that big chunky box in the corner of the room to a flat panel display that's on the wall, and of course then it'll be operated by a set-top box. So the integrated TV has a future, but it's limited.
Okay. But so there's integration from the TV, including the set-top box, and what you said, but we also have the set-top box expanding into internet and multifunctionality and just driving a screen that might be anywhere. Yeah,
the set-top box will become the home gateway. It'll be where the fat pipe comes into the home, and then it'll be dispersing that information around the home to various devices. That'll be in the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom, and various people will be, different people in the room, on the house will be able to view different things at the same time.
At some stands here we saw, apart from the set-top boxes, another unit before that, what they call the portal, which would take care of taking kid porn out and whatever you don't want, or to limit the access to a certain website. That's a security device, as I understand.
Yeah, it'll be a security device. Obviously, you need to be able to check what's coming into the house, and so that the kids don't view those adult programs that may be available that you want to watch later at night. So there'll be some sort of home gateway, some sort of box in the corner that you'll be able to set up to be able to view things in different rooms for different people. The kids may have an ID that they have to punch in, which will give them access to certain things in their rooms or whatever TV or panel they're watching.
My experience is that the kids will learn the codes for the master access faster than the dads do.
Yeah, that's possibly true. In which case there'll have to be some sort of other measurement. Possibly that fingerprints or something like that will be used. You put your finger onto some sort of sensitive display and that'll identify who's in the room.
One of the trends is then convergence of the PC with internet and the TV and other home appliances, audio all over the place, home networks. Now, the question there is, how far will this go? Will we go as far as real home automation?
Home automation is certainly something that could come up, but not for at least 10 to 15 years. Many homes can't be retrofitted, or it'll be expensive to retrofit homes with various devices to close the curtains, to turn on lights, to turn on apparatus in the house, and things like that. So that'll be expensive. In the future, in the very near future, the home entertainment area, it's all going to be around entertainment. So home networking is going to be based on entertainment and the internet and information being delivered to display devices around the house.
There's a long-standing debate about whether television, which is viewed of a distance, say, of 10 feet, 3 meters, and the PC, which is viewed at a distance of half a meter, could converge, whether these are not different functionalities and different things we need, different modalities.
Absolutely right. They are different, and they will remain different. The two functions are completely different, and converging them is really not on. What will be the convergence will be that entertainment and information, so that mixture of entertainment. So when you're watching a sports program, you get some information up on the screen at the same time. That is only available now really on PCs separately, but that will become part and parcel of the entertainment package delivered by the broadcaster, by the operator. So yes, you'll be sitting back to watch this sports program. You won't be sitting up front, but you'll be able to get some of that entertainment that is only available now on the PC. So that is a form of convergence. Will PCs be showing movies and things like that? No, I don't think so, because they have the function of being a PC. That's what they're there for. But if you have a separate display in your room, you may switch it from being a PC to a TV. Yeah? That's a different thing. That's not convergence. That is simply using a display to display whatever it is that you want to watch or do.
Okay, another little bit inside thing was, in Amsterdam we were supposed to have digital decoders by now, but it's postponed for a year and probably for 18 months. And one of the reasons they say is Microsoft didn't come up with the right software yet. What's true about it?
Microsoft does have the right software, but it's not in the right environment to be used for TVs. It's fine for PCs, but it's not really designed to be used for TVs. It's a client-server software based on Windows CE and Windows NT. That's fine working in a PC, but it's not really any much good for being used in a home TV area. Sorry, you threw me there.
Well, but it's a story that the industry is not happening as fast as we expected. Now, this is the same thing that happened with the .com market, and they've been severely hit on the stock market. Is the same going to happen with the telcos trying to edge into, the money machine, which is the set-top box in the house?
Yeah, the telcos would really love to do that because there's another revenue source. Their problem is they don't have access to the content. The broadcasters, the content owners, have that access, and they have the traditional methods of aiming TV to TV people. They know about TV, they know about films, movies and things, sports. The telcos don't have that access to it. Now, they can do deals with the content providers, but they're going to have to pay dearly for it. They're going to have to pay a lot of money for that. If I'm a broadcaster, I'm already in that deal. I've got the big, deep pockets. Yeah?
That's what we've seen. We have seen Telefonica buy Dutch television production houses. We've seen Tiscali just buying World Online. They're talking about content all over the place. But some people had an idea that on the internet content would be free. Is that true, or is that...
I think we're going to see the internet content not become free. Somebody wants to make money out of content some way. If I produce something, I eventually want to have it paid for. I want to make money out of it. So yeah, at the end of the day, content is king. That's what goes, keeps people's eyeballs screwed to the TV or to the display or whatever. If you don't have content, then you don't have viewers. You don't have consumers.
And do you think the courts and the people of the copyright organization will defend their rights to copyrights, to getting money for music, MP3, that whole story?
Yeah, absolutely. The big music companies, will hold on to their rights. Yeah, the age of free, everything being free, is slowly disappearing. Yeah, it won't be around. The internet won't always be the place that everything will be free. Information is something different, but actually content like music, like films, TV, you've got to pay for that somewhere. And advertising isn't going to be the only source of revenue for it.
So like today you pay for your newspaper, and that will happen for your MP3 downloads too?
Because if you don't pay for it, what do you get? You don't get good stuff, yeah? Good quality. Quality comes with money.
We're going to have a look at the show for what quality it is. Paul Donovan of Gartner DataQuest, thank you.
kommer tilbage, eller der er nogle meget tekniske ting. Så Claus, der var der i går, ham der sad lige over for mig, han er altså...
Many big names here at IBC, and of course also the BBC. Now, the BBC is not, it's a broadcast organization, but what they're trying to push here is of course their resources and their training and their services. And we asked a few people what it means. Well, the BBC, if you are for instance in some African country and you want to train your broadcast stuff or in fact set up a whole new station, they'll help you do it. The engineering work, the consulting on how to get content, how to set everything up, and the training of your people. And as far as we can see, of course, the BBC is a very professional organization in that respect. What we didn't like so much is that when we talked to a few ladies here and asked them to say something for the camera, they pointed to the boss higher up, and he was busy, so he couldn't do that. And then you get a little bit feeling about how the BBC is still a fairly hierarchical and stiff organization where the lower echelon doesn't have to say very much, at least not in front of a television. And that's what we didn't like so much. Sorry, BBC. The intricacies of broadcasting these days include knowing what MPEG-2 and MPEG-4 means. Gary Marshall from Zapex Technologies, I'm sure you can tell me what does that mean, MPEG-2?
MPEG-2 was the original standard that they came up with, and it's really used in a number of applications. The first application was for DVD, and the DVD forum chose MPEG-2 as the standard to encode video onto a DVD.
Wait a minute, DVD, we talk video disc, we talk a digital encoding system. Now where does it stand for MPEG?
Oh, the basics MPEG is Motion Picture Experts Group.
Some guys got together and said this is the standard we want to have.
I would assume so. MPEG-1 was their first try at it, and it was a lower resolution, lower bit rate.
You've seen in CD ROM video applications, not so good a picture, a little bit of a jerky motion.
Yeah, it's more of a VCR type of quality. But when they wanted to go up and really do movies well, they wanted a higher bit rate. So they went and looked at the algorithms, looked to see how it could be expanded into a higher bit rates, and they went up into the MPEG-2 format. What we do is an MP at ML level, which is a main profile, main level MPEG-2. And that's very useful for the DVD solutions. It also allows us to go into a lower bit rate video over IP networks.
Because these three applications I see at your stand of Zapex, you make, say, MPEG encoders and decoders for three applications. One is an IP network, which is internet or intranet or your Ethernet in the company. The second one is making DVDs. And the third one is using it for broadcast.
Correct. In the United States, we're working with some of the cable companies to go out over a DVB ASI
video broadcast.
Right, DVB standard. So we do the MPEG encoding. We also do Dolby Digital audio encoding on my card. And we're then able to go out over the DVB standard and go to many of the set-top boxes that are now coming out from Scientific Atlanta or General Instruments, now Motorola, and they've standardized on both MPEG-2 and Dolby Digital for home use with the set-top boxes.
So basically it means in the old days you had an analog signal, and many cameras now have an analog signal for broadcasting. They take it to one of your machines or cards, then it's encoded in digital and is brought to the home, where a set-top box brings it back to analog. Why all this way around it? Why not stick to the old system? What is the advantage of MPEG-2 or MPEG-4 over the old analog?
Okay. In the United States, in a frequency that the cable companies have, which is 6 megahertz, you can get one analog channel in there. If you go to a standard definition television, you can now get 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 channels into that one. So in addition,
practical terms, for the Amsterdam people, we're going to get digital set-top boxes maybe in a year time. It means that now they have 30 channels. They can expect 5 times, 6 times, 180, maybe 200 channels.
If that's the capabilities that were there, yes, you could. So there's more channels. There's a little bit higher quality going digital over the transmission.
You were mentioning this Dolby surround sound. That is not stereo. That is 5 times 5 directions video audio.
In the United States, many of the set-top boxes support 2 channels, stereo, Dolby Digital, AC3. But because the video was digital, they also needed the audio digital, and they selected Dolby as it. Some of the home theaters are now going to the 5.1 channel, and that would require the Dolby 5.1 channel. But most of the set-top boxes really just now require 2 channels.
So you will still have stereo television, so to speak?
Correct. They can change it to think like it's 5.1s at a home theater once they get it to the set-top box.
Now, another advantage that I've been told by digital is the regeneration. You don't need to watch the quality of your connections so much, because a digital signal is either a yes or a no, 0 or a 1, so you can regenerate it easier and you can cover larger distances and faster.
I believe that's correct. We really concentrate more on the encoding side rather than the transmission side. That's really where our expertise is. But when we're working with some other companies that are doing video over ATM or video over fiber optics, there you're getting into the ability to go over wider distances with a better signal. And you're right.
ADSL that uses normal telephone lines and goes up to 2 or 1.5 megabits per second.
1.5 megabits per second, yeah. That's correct.
Now another technical question. When I was at Sony, I saw MPEG-2 or MPEG-4, which is MPEG-2 is a subset of MPEG-4 at 50 megabits per second. Now for the home, now this is what they use for their broadcast, to work on the stuff. But for a home, you only need like how much, 2 or 3 megabits?
Correct. Most of the cable channels are going off at about 3 megabits per second. But in a TV production facility, they're using 50 megabits per second because they need all the resolution and all of the color image information that they can get, so that as they transmit and then look to edit and then re-encode, they don't lose detail. So we're in that. They're in the production area where they're using that high 50 megabits per second because they want the very, very best quality that they can get. Once we go to transmission, we're now taking that 50 megabits and bringing it down to 4 or 5 megabits per second.
And that's all within the same specifications of that MPEG-2 coding?
Correct. MPEG-2 has a number of different levels and profiles. And at 50 megahertz, you're 50 megabits per second, you're up at the highest level. We're operating down more on the MP at ML, which is more of a standard level.
Okay. Gary, another thing, we're in Amsterdam and IBC's in Amsterdam. Have you been here before?
Last year I had the opportunity to come here and enjoy the city.
Okay. You like it?
Oh, yes. It's a very interesting, very live city.
You need an umbrella these days?
Last year it was very hot and sunny, so last year I had a great time.
Okay. There's enough hotel accommodations, things like that?
Unfortunately, we were out in Rotterdam this year.
Oh, that's an hour drive, huh?
Train ride.
Train ride. And do you find it comfortable?
The train is very comfortable. Getting up the hour early probably isn't.
Okay. Gary, have a good time in Amsterdam and in Rotterdam, and I hope it's a good show for you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
IBC. Yes, a multitude of technologies, of new products, but also a lot of legacy, a lot of transovers, transient equipment, decoders, how to get from, say, an analog to a digital standard, how to get from the old to the new. And yes, everybody's talking about high definition TV and broadband and web streaming and all those things, but most people working in the industry are trained in the old systems. They have to adapt, they have to be retrained, and they have maybe to change their way of thinking. One of the trends we kind of missed on the IBC was how broadcast organizations, how people working in the industry adapt to, say, the new wave of local media, like Kleurnet. We are a small station, we work with DV cameras, and we edit in DV, and that's all a budget operation. Still, we produce 3 hours a day of material. Sometimes in English, sometimes in Dutch. And no, we don't have the money for stuff like this. We don't use prompters, we do everything on the fly. We don't use extensive or expensive editing equipment. We basically work with DV as you would like to work with old equipment in the Umatic days, that is cut, and in real-time editing. Yes, and we do have computers to do the leaders and the fancy footwork, but that's only done for commercials and for small items. Yet we produce a lot of material. And yes, as you can see, sometimes we're out of focus. And yes, we know about the MPEG 2 coming, but do we care? We go around at the IBC and see equipment like this. Well, that's nice. A small helicopter to do your filming out from the air. But would the Dutch police allow a thing like that? Probably not. So that's what we feel. There is a whole new wave of budget television coming up. We need content in the world. We need a lot of content. And it will come to the people through streaming, through the internet, through the multi-channels of the digital decoder. But local content will still be very important. It's been shown over the past few years that the local channels do get the viewers to watch them. That in a city like Amsterdam, the main channel, which is 85, it brings the news, gets the majority of the viewers. It beats the national or the international channels with local news, local content. And the question is all this expensive equipment, better and better, high definition TV, is it really going to be the wave of the future? Or are we going back to what we see here? Even Panasonic coming out with small and cheap DV cameras. Nice kit, no doubt. But we sometimes get a feeling walking around the IBC, and we've been covering it since it's in Amsterdam, and it feels a little bit like a dinosaur industry. Showing all the tools and the tricks and the gear, expensive and better and with better performance than last year and whatnot. But who buys this stuff? Are these the megalith large broadcast companies like the BBC, the ones who still spend $50,000 to $100,000 per hour of television? We have a budget of less than $200 per hour of television, and that includes this item on IBC. A cameraman going around, a reporter who knows what he's talking about, no pre-programmed text. The shots you see are made by a very simple means, in-camera overlays. We use Sony 1000s, and we look at this stuff. We've been even offered trials with satellite uplinks and downlinks, but to tell you the truth, we don't use them. We still use tapes, and we bring them to the head end. We might want to have a head end connection, but that certainly isn't going to be a transponder or a satellite uplink. No, the local television of the future might use ISDN, a combination of cables. It might use ADSL, but in Holland they have limited the performance of ADSL uplink in such a way that you cannot really do video. Yes, we can buy glass fiber connections to our head end, but it costs maybe $70,000 to $100,000 per year, so too much for a small station. Yes, we're waiting for MPEG-2 equipment and airing our stuff on the internet. But what about the copyrights? As you realize, the large corporations, the people who do own the content, they go to court if you use the material. The MP3 case on audio was very clear about that. So we try to shoot without using music, except libraries that are royalty free and copyright free, and use music we find on the streets, new bands, people with ambition, and we write a little bit of it ourselves. But it's a different approach. We never use material from other people. We try to make everything ourselves. And that is a wave we kind of missed on IBC. It's still an industry thing. It's still a professional world. But is the future of having 200 channels, of having 1,000 channels on the internet, of having content all over the place, can that future afford the equipment being shown here? Or is it just an old industry trying to keep ahead of technology and making us believe that faster is better and high definition sells better? It feels a little bit out of place walking around at this show. These are the professionals and we are the amateurs. Well, the professionals make 15 minutes a day of IBC coverage and air that in the morning. You can see that on the 85 channel every morning from 7 to 9. But that's 15 minutes repeated 8 times. We make nearly an hour every day and we like it. But not only an hour for this, we make 3 hours a day of various programs about what happens in Amsterdam. Things like Sail 2000 a few weeks ago, the Gay Parade, but also culture like today, museum, what's happening in town, the local content that might interest people that are watching. The Amsterdam people, you who are visitors or exhibitors at the IBC. Kleurnet is maybe a typical example of a small-scale operation, of a new wave in local media. We have a lot of cameras, but they're all amateur, consumer-style cameras. Yes, we have a few bigger ones in the studio, but basically we use very simple things. All the gadgets like you see here, something that, you know, it's a lens that cleans itself. If you spray water on it, it heats itself. It's like the windows of your car. Now, very interesting. But when it rains, we don't shoot. And that's what actually happens with most small operations. You hide for the rain. Now, what did we find at the show? As we showed you, there was a new Panasonic 3CCD shoulder model, and we like that because we like the competition for Sony. They have increased the prices of their high-end consumer cameras, but about 20%. Their service isn't very good. They have more or less, we've heard that they're abandoning their larger size of cassettes for the Model 9000. We're not very happy with them, and so some competition might help. So that's what we're looking for, these kind of cameras. This is a Sony, one of the newer generations DVs. We're looking for better quality, but we're also looking for ease of use. We're not looking for the real-time rendering machines that you see in the software, because that's too complex. For a small station that has to cover the news and the items that come up every day, there just isn't time. And in that respect, maybe it's good to listen again to the Ikegami interview we did yesterday about what it means to use rotating memory, because that is indeed one of the limits. When you shoot on tape and you want to go and use the computer for editing your material, you have to upload it. You have to get it on your hard disk. And there are systems that do that 4 times as fast or whatever, but we are limited to real-time upload. Well, that takes too long, because you have to upload and then you do your work in the computer, you're editing with Adobe Premiere or whatever program, but then you have to output it again before it's on the tape ready for airing. And very often we then have to put it on a production tape which combines all the things that we have for a day, because we do a 3-hour program on a DV tape, and that's repeated automatically. Very simple on a tape machine from Sony, but it makes the use of things like offline editing a little bit complex. Even if it's very fast, it still takes you about 3 times the times that we now use for cut-to-cut editing. So we're now going to talk with Ikegami about that item, rotating memory, rotating hard disks as a way of storing in the camera. Welcome to the Kleurnet show. You're working for Ikegami, and one of the products you show here is cameras with hard disks.
That's correct.
Now, in what aspect does that differ from, say, cameras with tapes?
It allows you to take the hard disk out and put it into a non-linear editing system and go straight online.
If I have a tape machine and I want to do the computer work on it, because that's what editors do these days, they put it in the computer. What's the difference? If I have a tape, how much longer does it take to get it into the computer in a workable mode?
In the worst case, you have to download the tape in real time into the non-linear edit system in order to have access to the material.
When you say in real time, I have a tape of 1 hour. It takes me 1 hour before I have the stuff from the tape on the hard disk.
Correct. Okay. Yeah.
In the system of Ikegami, you just take the disk out of the camera and put it in a computer, and you can...
That's correct. Yeah, you plug it into an interface, and it then becomes another part of the edit system, the non-linear edit system. So it's like another input to the hard disk system.
Is technology going your way? Because hard disks are getting cheaper and faster and bigger all the time, and tape stays more or less the same.
Yes, tape is a dead environment because it cannot be advanced, whereas the hard disk can have new technology applied to it day on day.
Well, let me play devil's advocate. I saw that I think JVC has a format D9 where they use the old VHS format tapes or SVHS format tapes for digital storage. That sounds like smart reuse of technology.
Yes, that's a way in which to continue the use of tape, because there are millions of tapes.
Billions, I think, even.
Billions even of tapes available with storage material. If you want to archive material, then at the moment, tape is the best medium to do it with from a cost point of view.
That's interesting. Take a 4 gigabyte... let me take that. So we have a 4 gigabyte. Well, what's the cost of this?
That would be around about £400.
So that's about 1,000 gil or something like that. And how many hours does that store?
That only stores about 34 minutes of record time.
So half an hour for 1,000 guilders. Now compare it to...
Yeah, but that will last you 11 years of continuous use.
Yeah, but the cost, say I shoot half an hour...
Cost per minute. Cost per minute of
this... Cost per minute is much higher than of tape.
Lower. 1/100th of the cost of tape per minute over the lifetime of the disc.
This sounds like very smart salesman's talk. If I have to buy tapes, they cost me like 50 guilders, 60 guilders for the same thing. Now it costs 1,000. And you say yes, but accessibility and durability are better.
Right, yes, it is. Because the mean time between failures of this device is 175,000 hours.
But, now, John, if I throw this in the air real high, does it break?
I would hope not.
No, but that's the other aspect. This is a little bit more vulnerable than tapes.
No, it's less vulnerable than tapes because in operation it has in excess of 15G. What's the right word?
Shockproof.
Shockproof, yeah, and parked 150G.
But you realize I've been around having these small tapes all over my pocket, and I've been sitting on them, and I've been throwing them, and we've been mailing them.
You can sit on that, you can mail that, you can throw it in a bucket of water.
Okay. Yet the question is, Ikegami is one of the pioneers in this rotating memory application for the video. Why isn't Sony and the other guys doing it?
They're following us.
Yeah, there's a rumor that Sony has a machine somewhere here that...
Well, I don't know about rumours, I know about facts. We have a working kit that is 100% reliable, and we've had disc-based camcorders for more than 4 years available in the market. It's only that the marketplace has refused to accept or embrace.
Is it typical for the broadcast market that they are a little bit resilient to change?
Yeah,
Still, everybody's using Betacams and
but they also embraced Digibeta because it was a better format. What they haven't done at the moment is embrace this technology, hard disk drive, because they don't really understand the benefits of it.
Now, here is also the aspect of compatibility. You have these in 4 gigabytes, I assume 16 gigabytes and other sizes?
No, not as high as 16. 5.6 to 6, maybe 8. 8 probably maximum.
But does it fit in like a normal computer? Or do you need special systems?
No, you need an interface which we call a field pack adapter. This is a field pack, and a field pack adapter is just a method of getting this.
It's like a removable slot where you put this in your computer.
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in the computer you don't need any further special software stuff?
As long as the system is compatible, you don't need any additional software.
So for instance, if you're used to Adobe Premiere to do your video editing, you can still use that?
No.
No. Why not?
Because the system as we have it at the moment is geared to a certain technology. We're building an embracement of embracing other technologies so that the software in the camera can be selected to give you the technology that you want for your edit system. So
basically you can make a choice whether you encode it like MPEG or AVI, whatever you want to use.
At the moment the system is geared to this system is geared to DV compression, and the system that we have over there is for AVR 70BH compression, which is the variable compression. But we're working on
DV is digital video.
DV, DV compression. DV
which is a standard. That's a standard 25 megabits per second compression.
Right, yeah. And we're working on JFIF files and MPEG files. So
in fact, what you're saying is Ikegami is a bit of a pioneer in this tech to using rotating memory.
Ikegami is certainly the pioneer in this technology. Yes.
Now I see that Sony, we just were at their stand. They're now using MPEG 2 instead of the old recording methods. The new method is MPEG 2. How do I get from this to MPEG 2?
When we've provided the software in the system, you can select in the menu MPEG 2 compression system, and the disk will then be MPEG 2, and when you put it into your system, it will automatically marry up with your MPEG 2 compression.
Is there a specific sub-market like news gathering teams that like this technology better than tapes?
There's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines wishing that their company would take up this, because it will give them a much wider ability to store important material. One of the features...
Well, thank you, John Turley. This was it for today. We are back tomorrow. You can reach us by mobile phone or internet. My name is Luc Sala, and this is the Kleurnet coverage of IBC. We'll be here every day with a new program, and this program will be repeated every 3 hours until 7 o'clock in the morning. So if you missed it, switch on again in about 2 hours and you get a full hour of IBC coverage, done by a local station with no connections to IBC TV News. We're very independent, and we try to give you our opinion, our view of what's happening. We're covering the old technology, the world of the analog, but also the latest MPEG-2, MPEG-4 decoding, and we try to make you understand what this all means. This is a program made for the wider Amsterdam audience, but as a service to the IBC visitors, we do it in English for the IBC week. Kleurnet is a local station that airs every day from 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 7 o'clock in the morning with a 3-hour carousel. And we're covering both local and international items, as you can see.